In the pre-dawn darkness of early March, two specially equipped vans wound through Cambodia's countryside carrying precious cargo. Over 1,500 endangered freshwater fish on a journey back to the wild. Among them was a 5-foot giant that had spent 13 years in captivity, unaware it would become a symbol of hope for one of the world's most threatened aquatic ecosystems. The tunnel sap, Southeast Asia's largest lake and a vital lifeline for millions of Cambodians, has witnessed the near collapse of its most magnificent inhabitants. These waters, connected to the mighty Mekong River that flows through 6 nations, once teemed with freshwater giants that rivaled grizzly bears in size. The Mekong giant catfish, capable of reaching 660 pounds, has become a ghost in its own habitat. Zeb Hogan, a fish biologist from the University of Nevada, Reno, hasn't spotted one in the wild since 2015, a sobering testament to their precipitous decline. Populations have crashed by over 90% in recent decades, victims of relentless overfishing, dam construction, and human encroachment. The giant barb, Cambodia's national fish and a carp species that can grow to equally impressive dimensions, shares this grim trajectory. Even the once common striped catfish, a 4-foot species that formerly graced dinner tables across the region as a dietary staple, now bears the endangered label. The rescue mission began with an unlikely savior, a local fish trader who had unknowingly collected tiny, indistinguishable fry 13 years earlier. What started as specks in her nets had transformed into massive catfish that outgrew her modest ponds. Her donation of 5 giant catfish to a research center in southeastern Cambodia became the foundation of this ambitious reintroduction effort. Unlike typical captive breeding programs that often struggle with genetic bottlenecks, these fish carried the wild DNA crucial for successful reproduction. They had been plucked from nature as juveniles too small to identify by species, then raised in captivity while retaining their genetic diversity. The 2-day odyssey began at 8 p.m. on March 2nd, when the convoy departed the research facility with its aquatic passengers traveling in oxygenated tanks. One vehicle carried hundreds of striped catfish alongside dozens of juvenile giant barbs. The second transported the crown jewels, 2 enormous Mekong giant catfish. After an overnight journey, sunrise found them in Siem Reap, the northwestern gateway to the tunnel sap. Following a brief acclimatization period in temporary holding facilities, boats carried the fish to their final destination, a government-protected reserve in the lake's open waters. Remarkably, only one striped catfish succumbed to the stress of relocation among the more than 1,500 individuals released. While the successful release marks a significant milestone, researchers understand they've only addressed part of a complex puzzle. The underlying threats that decimated these populations, dams fragmenting river systems, pollution degrading water quality, and unsustainable fishing practices, remain largely unchanged. This release is significant, but it is just the first step of many actions that will be needed for the long-term recovery of these giant fish, explains Hogan, who coordinated the effort through his U.S. Agency for International Development project, Wonders of the Mekong. Conservation biology research has demonstrated that simply increasing fish numbers without tackling root causes of decline typically leads to reintroduction failure. As Jennifer Cochran-Biederman from St. Mary's University of Minnesota notes, successful programs must confront the broader spectrum of habitat degradation, from climate change and urban development to dam construction and pollution, challenges far more complex than stocking fish. The Mekong Basin represents one of Earth's most biodiverse freshwater systems, supporting nearly 1,000 fish species, including the planet's largest. These giants serve as bellwethers for the entire ecosystem's health, their fate intertwined with that of millions of people who depend on the fishery for sustenance and livelihood. The released fish now face the ultimate test, surviving in waters still threatened by the forces that nearly drove their species to extinction. Their success or failure will determine whether this conservation gamble becomes a model for recovery or a costly lesson in the limits of human intervention. In the depths of the tunnel sap, giants swim free once again. Whether they can reclaim their ancestral waters and rebuild their populations remains one of conservation's most watched experiments, a story still being written in Cambodia's murky, life-giving waters.